Discipline is often misunderstood. Many people see it as a set of routines, habits, or external cues that push you to do things you may not feel like doing. You wake up at a certain time, follow a strict schedule, and live your life by a series of rules. While these practices are part of discipline, they are not its core. At its essence, discipline isn't about being robotic or mechanical. It's about who you are, how you see yourself, and the structure you create in a world that constantly pulls you in different directions. It's about making a choice to govern your mind and your actions, especially when life feels chaotic. In today's fast-paced world, with distractions coming at us from every angle, social media, notifications, endless to-do lists, and the pressure to be everywhere all at once, our minds can easily become foggy, scattered, and restless. We're often told to just push through the overwhelm, to grind harder. But the truth is, when your mind lacks structure, it begins to rot in subtle ways. You lose focus. Your mornings slip away, your goals remain unfinished, and the quiet regret of unmet intentions builds up. This is not a sign of weakness or that you're broken. This is simply the result of living without order, without a personal law to guide you. The Stoics, philosophers of ancient Rome and Greece, understood this principle long before neuroscience confirmed it. They didn't wait for motivation to strike, nor did they rely on the perfect conditions to take action. They lived by a code, a set of internal laws that anchored them in times of chaos, fear, or uncertainty. Their philosophy wasn't about seeking perfection, but about developing inner discipline that could withstand the storms of life. In their view, without discipline, you become a prisoner to outer chaos. And without that inner order, your potential is wasted in the noise of the world. When you reclaim your mind, when you take back control of your time and energy, that's when discipline becomes something powerful and transformative. It's not about rigid schedules or overwhelming rules. It's about aligning your actions with who you are becoming. It's about choosing structure over impulse, intention over habit, presence over distraction. The real danger isn't failure, it's passivity, living without purpose, and letting your days slip by without meaningful action. This journey to reclaim your discipline isn't about tips and tricks to hack your habits. It's about rewiring the way you think, act, and live. It's about creating a life that reflects your deepest values and aspirations, not the noisy distractions that pull at you every day. The Stoic Laws we'll explore are not just rules to follow. They are reminders that you don't need to feel ready to become the person you want to be. You just need to take action, even when it's hard, even when no one is watching. Because true discipline doesn't shout, it simply shows up day after day, shaping the person you are meant to become. Discipline, when done right, isn't a force. It's a choice. It's not about punishing yourself for what you didn't do. It's about honoring yourself for what you are committed to. It's about the small, invisible decisions that define who you are when no one is around. This is the foundation of real, lasting change. It's not cold or mechanical. It's alive and intentional. And when you cultivate it, you're not just building habits. You're building a new self. The essence of discipline. Discipline at its core is about self-respect. It is not a punishment, a chore, or a strict set of rules imposed on you by external forces. It is the act of honoring yourself, your time, your values, your potential, by making choices that align with your long-term goals, not just your short-term moods. True discipline goes beyond following routines or checking boxes. It is the deep, internal commitment to show up for yourself, to keep promises to yourself, especially when no one is watching. In our fast-paced world, we are constantly bombarded with distractions. Social media pulls us in. Notifications demand our attention, and a never-ending stream of tasks and responsibilities flood our days. We become overwhelmed by the chaos of it all, and in the absence of clear structure, the mind begins to scatter. We lose focus. We fail to follow through on our intentions. And before we know it, we are stuck in a cycle of regret, telling ourselves that tomorrow will be the day we start anew. But without discipline, tomorrow never comes. The distractions remain, the procrastination continues, and we fall further away from who we want to be. This is why discipline is not just about doing more, but about doing less. doing what matters most. It is about cutting through the noise and focusing on what truly aligns with your values, your goals, and your future self. The Stoics knew this truth well. They didn't chase after fleeting motivation or wait for the right moment to act. They lived by a code, a personal law that anchored them in times of uncertainty, anxiety, or hardship. This internal code was their form of discipline. It kept them grounded, focused, and aligned with their principles, even when external circumstances tried to pull them off course. The Stoics understood something crucial. Without inner discipline, you become a prisoner to outer chaos. When your mind is without structure, you are vulnerable to distractions, impulses, and emotional reactions that lead you away from your true path. The world is constantly pushing and pulling you in different directions, but discipline allows you to choose your response. It allows you to decide, moment by moment, who you want to be and how you want to show up in the world. Discipline as a reflection of self-respect. Discipline is a way of showing respect for yourself. It is about taking ownership of your time, your energy, and your actions. This is where the real work of discipline begins, not in the big goals or grand achievements, but in the small, quiet moments where you choose not to abandon your potential. It's in those private, often invisible decisions when you choose to do what you said you would do, even when there's no external reward or recognition. Self-respect means that you no longer betray your own values for the sake of convenience or short-term pleasure. It means that your actions align with your long-term vision of yourself. When you make the decision to honor your commitments, you're not just acting with discipline. You're demonstrating profound respect for who you are and who you are becoming. This is what the Stoic philosopher Epictetus meant when he said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Without discipline, you are at the mercy of external forces, constantly swayed by your moods, impulses, and the loudest voices in the room. But when you master yourself, when you take full responsibility for your actions and decisions, you gain true freedom. The key to discipline is understanding that it is not about denying yourself joy or pleasure, nor is it about being cold or mechanical. It is not about imposing rules that restrict you. Rather, it's about creating boundaries that allow you to protect what matters most to you. It is about choosing what strengthens you over what soothes you. This might mean resisting the urge to procrastinate, saying no to distractions, or pushing through the discomfort of doing something difficult, not because you hate yourself, but because you respect yourself enough to keep your promises. True discipline is an act of love for yourself and your future. It's about aligning your actions with the person you want to become. And this is where the profound shift happens. Discipline is not about forcing yourself into a mold or sticking to a rigid set of rules. It's about making choices that reflect your values and your true self. When you live by this code, you begin to understand that you are not just a collection of habits or routines. You are a person with the ability to shape your own destiny. Discipline is freedom. In a world that constantly pulls at us in different directions, it may seem counterintuitive to think of discipline as freedom. After all, doesn't freedom mean doing whatever you want, whenever you want? But the truth is that freedom doesn't come from indulgence. It comes from having control over your actions, your choices, and your response to the world around you. Discipline is the key to this freedom. The Stoics understood this paradox. They knew that external freedom, freedom from obligations, constraints, or difficult circumstances, was not the real kind of freedom. The real freedom is inner freedom, the ability to make decisions with clarity, to live in alignment with your values, and to choose your response to life's challenges. In other words, true freedom comes from discipline, because it allows you to choose the life you want to live, regardless of external pressures. Without discipline, you are at the mercy of your impulses and the world around you. You are a prisoner to your cravings, your moods, and the demands of others. But when you reclaim your discipline, you gain the power to choose. You choose what to focus on, what to say yes to, and what to say no to. You decide how to respond to distractions, how to prioritize your time, and how to take care of yourself. This is why discipline is so empowering. It gives you the ability to act intentionally, to make decisions that align with your goals and values. It allows you to rise above the noise of the world and make choices based on purpose, not impulse. And when you have the freedom to choose, you can direct your life with clarity and confidence. Discipline and identity. Discipline is not just about the actions you take. It's about the person you are becoming. Every decision you make, every small act of discipline, is a vote for the person you want to be. When you practice discipline, you are not just building habits, you are building an identity. You are becoming the person who consistently shows up, even when it's difficult, even when no one is watching. The Stoics understood that your actions define who you are, not just in the moment, but in the long term. They didn't see discipline as something external to themselves. It was an embodiment of their core values. Discipline was a reflection of who they were, of their commitment to virtue, wisdom, and inner peace. In the same way, when you practice discipline, you are not just following rules. You are shaping your character, developing the traits that will carry you forward in life. This is where the true power of discipline lies. It is not a means to an end. It is the path to becoming the person you aspire to be. Each act of discipline, whether it's waking up early, resisting a distraction, sticking to a workout routine, or following through on a commitment, is a step toward becoming a person you can be proud of. It is not about perfection. It's about consistency. It's about the small, quiet choices that build the foundation of your character. Discipline is more than just a set of rules or a daily routine. It is an expression of self-respect, an act of freedom, and a powerful tool for shaping your identity. It is the internal structure that allows you to live intentionally and in alignment with your values. The Stoics understood that without inner discipline, the chaos of the world would overwhelm you. But with discipline, you gain the ability to shape your own life, to act with purpose, and to become the person you were always meant to be. True discipline is not about controlling every aspect of your life, but about choosing what matters most and letting that choice guide you every day. When you embrace discipline as a way of life, you don't just build better habits, you build a better version of yourself. Real discipline is a personal practice. Discipline is often seen through the lens of external expectations, schedules, tasks, and routines imposed on us by others, or even by societal norms. We think of it as something rigid, something we have to force ourselves to do. But this view of discipline misses the most essential aspect. Discipline is not just about doing things because we have to. It's about doing them because we choose to. Real discipline is a personal practice, a choice to live in alignment with our values, our goals, and our potential, even when external pressures or distractions try to pull us away. When we think about discipline in this way, less as a list of tasks to complete and more as a practice to be embraced, we start to see how it is deeply personal. It is an internal commitment that reflects who we are and who we want to become. It's about building a structure that fits our unique nature, rather than following someone else's playbook for success. This is where true discipline lies, in understanding yourself deeply enough to craft your own rhythm, your own set of principles, and your own internal laws that support your growth, rather than forcing yourself into a mold that doesn't suit you. Real discipline comes from a place of self-awareness. It's not about blindly following routines or copying others' practices because they seem successful. It's about building a way of living that works for you, that supports your personal goals, respects your inner needs, and pushes you in the direction of becoming your best self. Understanding your personal rhythm. One of the key components of real discipline is understanding your personal rhythm. Just as no two people have the same personality, no two people will have the same approach to discipline. What works for someone else may not work for you, and trying to replicate someone else's system may only lead to frustration. The truth is that discipline isn't one size fits all. It's not about waking up at 5 a.m. just because that's what successful people do, or following a rigid set of rules because they are the latest trend. Instead, real discipline is about honoring your own needs and understanding the rhythm of your life. Some people thrive in the quiet solitude of early mornings, while others find their energy in the late hours of the night. Some people perform best when they follow a structured, detailed plan, while others work best when they have the freedom to explore their creativity in a more fluid, less structured environment. The key to discipline is knowing yourself well, enough to craft a structure that supports your strengths and acknowledges your weaknesses. For example, a person who is naturally a night owl may find it nearly impossible to stick to a 5 a.m. wake-up call. They might force themselves to follow that routine because they think it's the right thing to do. But the reality is that if their most creative energy surfaces in the evening, forcing an early start might only lead to exhaustion, frustration, and burnout. In contrast, someone who thrives in the mornings might find their peak productivity during those early hours and can structure their day around it. The point is not to follow someone else's structure, but to build one that honors your unique nature. A soldier and a poet both need discipline, but they will practice it differently. The soldier's discipline may look like early rising, physical training, and a structured schedule with little room for deviation. The poet's discipline may involve long hours of solitude, periods of quiet inspiration, and rituals that nourish their creativity. The principle is the same, but the application is different. What works for one person may not work for another, and that's okay. The key is to figure out what discipline looks like for you. Self-knowledge as the foundation of discipline. This brings us to the importance of self-knowledge. Real discipline begins with an honest and deep understanding of who you are, where you thrive, and where you struggle. This self-awareness is the foundation upon which you can build your personal practice of discipline. Without it, you might find yourself perpetually chasing someone else's ideal or trying to meet external standards that don't align with your true nature. The Stoics believed in understanding and accepting one's nature. Marcus Aurelius, for example, was constantly reflecting on his own behavior, thoughts, and actions, asking himself how he could improve. His discipline was deeply personal, shaped by his own understanding of his strengths, his weaknesses, and his purpose in life. He did not impose rigid structures that didn't suit him. He tailored his discipline to his own life. This self-awareness is key to long-term success because it allows you to craft a sustainable system of discipline. If you're constantly fighting against your own rhythm, trying to force yourself into a mold that doesn't fit, you'll only create resistance. But if you honor your natural tendencies and build discipline around them, it becomes easier to stick to your commitments, and your efforts become more rewarding. Discipline as consistency, not perfection. Another crucial aspect of real discipline is consistency, not perfection. In our culture, we often get obsessed with the idea of perfection, the perfect morning routine, the perfect workout, the perfect life. We set impossible standards for ourselves, and when we inevitably fall short, we get discouraged and give up. This is a trap. Discipline is not about being perfect, it's about being consistent. It's about showing up for yourself day after day, even when things don't go perfectly. Perfection is a mirage, a moving target that can never be reached. But consistency? Consistency is something you can control. It's about doing the work, even on days when you don't feel like it. It's about staying true to your commitments, even when the results aren't immediate. Discipline is built in the small, everyday decisions. It's the 1,000 tiny choices you make that add up over time to create the person you are becoming. If you miss a workout or skip a day of journaling, that's okay. The key is to get back on track. Real discipline is about getting back up, not beating yourself up. It's about understanding that setbacks are part of the process and that long-term success is built on persistence, not perfection. Discipline in the face of resistance. The truth about discipline is that it's not always easy. There will always be resistance, whether it's the pull of comfort, the lure of distraction, or the voice in your head telling you to give up. The more you step into discipline, the more you'll notice this resistance. And while it can feel uncomfortable at times, that resistance is actually a sign that you're on the right path. It means you're pushing against your own limits, testing your boundaries, and growing. The Stoics were masters at facing resistance. They didn't shy away from discomfort. They embraced it. They saw obstacles as opportunities for growth. Epictetus, in particular, taught that true freedom comes from mastering yourself and your impulses. The resistance you feel when you're pushing yourself to do something difficult is the very thing that will make you stronger. It's the practice of pushing through discomfort that builds resilience and helps you grow. For example, When you're trying to wake up early to work out, there will be moments when you don't want to get out of bed. Your mind will tell you to stay comfortable, to sleep a little longer. But the moment you push through that resistance and make the choice to get up, you've built a small act of discipline. You've proven to yourself that you can do hard things. Over time, these small acts add up, creating a foundation of self-respect and inner strength. Discipline as freedom from external expectations. One of the most freeing aspects of real discipline is that it's not about meeting external expectations. It's about aligning your actions with your internal values and goals, not with the pressures or judgments of others. When you build discipline that fits your nature and your aspirations, you are free from the constant need for external validation. You stop comparing yourself to others. Stop measuring your success by other people's standards. Instead, you create your own criteria for success based on what matters to you. The Stoics emphasized living according to your own principles, not being swayed by the opinions or judgments of others. They believe that true freedom comes from mastering yourself, not from seeking approval or praise. When you are disciplined in a way that reflects your own truth, you don't need external validation. You know that the work you're doing is meaningful because it is aligned with who you are and who you want to become. Real discipline is a personal practice. It is the deliberate choice to build a life that reflects your deepest values, not the standards imposed on you by others. It is about understanding your unique nature, crafting a discipline that fits your rhythm, and committing to consistency over perfection. It's about embracing resistance and pushing through discomfort, knowing that each step you take brings you closer to becoming the person you aspire to be. Real discipline gives you the freedom to live on your own terms, not bound by external expectations but guided by your own internal compass. And when you build discipline in this way, it becomes less of a burden and more of a powerful tool for growth, self-respect, and lasting transformation. Teaching others how to treat you. Discipline isn't just about how we treat ourselves, it's also about how we teach others to treat us. How we set boundaries, keep promises, and show up consistently defines not only our internal world, but also the way others perceive and interact with us. In essence, the way we practice self-discipline teaches the world how to interact with us. This is one of the most powerful aspects of discipline. It doesn't just create order in our own lives. It establishes respect, both from ourselves and others. The Stoics understood this dynamic deeply. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most disciplined emperors in history, wrote about living with integrity and adhering to a set of values that aligned with his principles, no matter his status or the circumstances surrounding him. Stoicism emphasizes self-governance, which is not only a tool for personal growth, but also a means of commanding respect from the world around us. When you live with discipline, you start to teach people how to treat you, not through force or aggression, but through the quiet authority that comes from living in alignment with your values. Respecting your time. The first way in which discipline teaches others how to treat you is by demonstrating how much you respect your time. Time is the most valuable resource we have. It's the one thing we can never get back. So when you respect your time, others start to do the same. This respect begins with understanding that your time is not infinite, and it is not to be wasted on trivial distractions, unnecessary meetings, or people who drain your energy without offering value in return. By setting boundaries around your time, whether it's saying no to invitations that don't align with your goals or protecting your working hours, you signal to others that your time is valuable. People will begin to notice that you are serious about your commitments, and they will treat your time accordingly. Over time, those around you will respect your time more, and your relationships will become more productive and meaningful because you've established a standard for what is acceptable. When you live in a way that consistently values your time, others will pick up on it. They will understand that they can't waste your time with idle chatter or pointless tasks. They'll know that if they want your attention or help, it must be for something that truly matters. By respecting your own time, you set a precedent for others to follow, creating an environment of mutual respect and productivity. Setting boundaries. Boundaries are essential in any healthy relationship, and discipline is the foundation of setting strong, clear boundaries Without discipline, boundaries can become weak or non-existent. It's easy to say yes when you feel the pressure to conform or please others, but saying yes too often, especially when it's not in line with your own needs, can lead to burnout, resentment, and frustration. On the other hand, saying no when necessary requires discipline. It's not always easy, but it's a critical part of teaching others how to treat you. When you set boundaries, you show others that you respect yourself enough to protect your time, energy, and emotions. Boundaries are a reflection of self-respect. They communicate that your needs, goals, and well-being matter. Without them, you can easily fall into a cycle of being overextended, taking on responsibilities that are not yours, or letting others overstep their limits with you. But with strong, clear boundaries, you teach people that your time and energy are not to be taken for granted. The beauty of boundaries is that they do not have to be harsh or confrontational. They can be communicated in a way that is calm, firm, and respectful. For example, if someone asks you to take on a task that doesn't align with your priorities or values, a respectful and disciplined response might be, "I'm not able to take this on right now because I have other commitments." You don't have to explain yourself endlessly or feel guilty about saying no. Discipline gives you the strength to honor your own boundaries, and in doing so, you teach others that respecting your boundaries is a fundamental part of interacting with you. Keeping your word. Another way that discipline teaches others how to treat you is through the simple but profound act of keeping your word. When you make a commitment, whether it's to yourself or to someone else, following through is one of the most important expressions of self-discipline. Integrity is built on the foundation of consistency. And when you demonstrate consistency in your actions, people will begin to trust you and respect you. Keeping your word, especially when no one is watching or holding you accountable, is one of the most powerful ways to build self-respect and teach others how to treat you. When you show up for yourself, when you honor your commitments, you build a reputation as someone who can be trusted. And when you demonstrate this same level of commitment in your relationships with others, you set the expectation that they, too, will honor their word and commitments to you. But it's important to note that discipline in keeping your word goes beyond just doing what you say you'll do. It's also about being mindful of the commitments you make in the first place. Overcommitting out of a desire to please others or making promises that you don't intend to keep is not discipline. It's self-sabotage. The disciplined person understands the power of saying yes to the right things and saying no to things that don't align with their values or priorities. By keeping your word and being mindful of the promises you make, you set a standard for trust, reliability, and integrity in your relationships. The quiet authority of discipline. Perhaps the most profound way that discipline teaches others how to treat you is through the quiet authority it gives you. When you live in alignment with your values, when you respect your time, set boundaries, and keep your word, you exude a subtle yet powerful form of authority. This authority is not about dominance or control. It is not about commanding respect from others through force or manipulation. Instead, it is the natural, earned respect that comes from living a disciplined, intentional life. People will begin to treat you with the respect you deserve, simply because they can see that you respect yourself. Your discipline speaks louder than words. It is the consistency of your actions that teaches people how to engage with you. You don't need to demand respect. You command it by showing up day after day, by living your truth, and by being a person who can be relied upon. This form of quiet authority creates a sense of safety and trust in your relationships. Others will recognize that you value yourself and your time, and they will begin to mirror that respect. They will know that when they engage with you, they are engaging with someone who has clear boundaries, who keeps their word, and who lives with integrity. Discipline is not only about how we treat ourselves, it's also about how we teach others to treat us. Through the practice of discipline, we set the tone for our relationships, creating an environment where respect, trust, and integrity thrive. By respecting our time, setting strong boundaries, and keeping our word, we send a clear message to the world that we are people of principle and purpose. And as we do so, we don't need to force others to treat us well. We simply show them how to, by living with discipline, consistency, and self-respect. This quiet authority is the foundation of meaningful, respectful relationships, both with ourselves and with those around us. 4. The challenge of discipline. Discipline, while transformative and empowering, is not without its challenges. It's easy to romanticize discipline as something that leads to success and achievement. We picture a smooth journey of progress, where our goals are met with grace, and every day is a step closer to the person we aspire to be. But the reality of discipline is much more complicated. Discipline requires effort, consistency, and the ability to push through resistance, discomfort, and even the lure of instant gratification. It forces you to face the parts of yourself that you'd rather avoid, your weaknesses, your laziness, your fears, and your tendency to procrastinate. The challenge of discipline lies not in the task itself, but in the internal battles it stirs. There are moments when you'll question your motivation, doubt your abilities, or feel the pull of convenience and comfort. Discipline asks you to show up even when it's hard, even when you don't feel like it, and even when your mind is filled with distractions and excuses. It's in those moments, the moments when resistance is at its peak, that discipline is truly tested. And it's in those moments where your true strength is forged. Facing internal resistance. The first challenge of discipline is internal resistance, the voice in your head that says, "Not today," or "You deserve a break." This voice is persuasive, and it thrives on your weaknesses. It tells you that one more hour of rest won't hurt, that it's okay to procrastinate just this once, or that tomorrow is the right time to start. It is the part of you that seeks comfort over growth, that craves ease over effort. This resistance can be powerful because it plays on your immediate desires, tempting you to prioritize short-term pleasure over long-term fulfillment. This internal resistance is natural. It's a part of the human condition. Our brains are wired to avoid discomfort and seek instant rewards, but this does not mean you are doomed to fall victim to it. The key to overcoming resistance is awareness and discipline. When you recognize the voice of resistance, you can choose not to listen to it. Instead of letting it dictate your actions, you can acknowledge it and then make a conscious decision to move forward anyway. The Stoics understood that resistance would always be present. They didn't expect discipline to come easily. Rather, they embraced the struggle as part of the process. Epictetus, for example, taught that the obstacles we face in life are opportunities to practice virtue and self-control. Every time we push through resistance, we strengthen our character and become more resilient. The battle against resistance is not a sign that you're failing. On the contrary, it's a sign that you're growing, dealing with self-doubt and fear. Another major challenge of discipline is the self-doubt and fear that often accompany it. When you start a new habit or embark on a new goal, it's easy to feel overwhelmed by the uncertainty of whether you will succeed. Self-doubt creeps in, telling you that you're not good enough, that you're too far behind, or that it's too late to start. Fear of failure can paralyze you and make it difficult to take action. You may question whether you have the discipline to follow through, and whether your efforts will even be worth it. This is a common experience. The fear of failure, coupled with the belief that discipline is an innate quality reserved for the elite or successful, can create a feeling of inadequacy. The truth is, discipline is not a trait that some people are born with and others are not. It's a skill that is cultivated through consistent effort and practice. The fear of failure is not something you can completely eliminate, but it's something you can manage by reframing your mindset. Instead of seeing failure as a sign of incompetence, you can view it as part of the process of growth. Every failure is a lesson, every setback an opportunity to improve. Marcus Aurelius, in his writings, frequently reminded himself that obstacles are not to be avoided, but embraced. He recognized that failure was an inevitable part of life, and it was not failure itself that defined him, but how he responded to it. When fear and self-doubt arise, discipline requires you to take the first step anyway. The act of moving forward in spite of fear is often the most powerful antidote to it. Every time you take action, even when you're afraid, you build trust in yourself. You begin to see that you are capable of following through on your promises, even when doubt clouds your mind. The temptation of instant gratification. Another obstacle in the path of discipline is the temptation of instant gratification. In a world filled with endless distractions, social media, streaming services, fast food, and the constant need for novelty, it's easy to succumb to the urge for quick pleasures. Instant gratification provides an immediate reward, but these rewards are often fleeting and shallow. When we indulge in these pleasures, we sacrifice the long-term gains that discipline offers. The challenge with instant gratification is that it's designed to be addictive. The brain loves the quick hits of dopamine that come from checking our phones, eating something sweet, or watching a show. These activities provide a temporary escape from discomfort, but they also erode our long-term goals. They keep us trapped in a cycle of mindless consumption and procrastination, robbing us of the energy and focus needed to achieve something meaningful. Discipline is about learning to delay gratification, choosing long-term rewards over immediate pleasures. The Stoics were masters of this practice. They taught the importance of self-control, the ability to endure discomfort for the sake of something greater. Seneca, one of the most famous Stoic philosophers, wrote that true pleasure comes not from indulgence, but from the freedom that comes with mastering oneself. This freedom is the result of choosing what is most valuable over what is easiest. When you cultivate the ability to delay gratification, you reclaim your power. You stop being controlled by fleeting desires and start living in alignment with your true priorities. Discipline is the ability to choose what serves you in the long run, even when the short-term rewards seem more appealing. The importance of consistency. The final challenge of discipline is consistency. Discipline is not about doing something perfectly once or twice. It's about showing up day after day, even when the initial excitement fades and the novelty wears off. It's about creating habits that align with your values and sticking to them, even when progress is slow and results are not immediately visible. The key to consistency is building routines that support your goals. When you have a daily rhythm that supports your discipline, you don't need to rely on motivation or willpower. Instead, you simply show up because it's part of your routine. Over time, these small, consistent actions compound into significant results. The Stoics understood that discipline is a lifelong practice, not a quick fix. Marcus Aurelius, in his daily reflections, reminded himself that virtue was not a single action, but a habit, a way of living. When discipline becomes a part of who you are, it no longer feels like a burden. It becomes an integral part of your identity. The challenge of discipline is not about avoiding discomfort, doubt, or temptation. It's about learning to face them head-on. Discipline is a practice that requires you to overcome internal resistance, confront self-doubt, delay gratification, and stay consistent. It's not always easy, but it is always worth it. Every obstacle you face is an opportunity to grow, and every challenge is a chance to prove to yourself that you are capable of more than you think. The journey of discipline is not about perfection, but about persistence. It is through facing the challenges of discipline that you become stronger, more resilient, and more aligned with the person you are becoming. And in the end, discipline is the key that unlocks your true potential. Building discipline that fits your nature. One of the biggest misconceptions about discipline is that it must be rigid, structured, and follow the same formula for everyone. The reality is that discipline is not a one-size-fits-all concept. What works for one person may not work for another, and trying to force yourself into someone else's mold can lead to frustration, burnout, and a sense of failure. To truly build lasting discipline, it must align with your unique nature, your strengths, your tendencies, your rhythm. Discipline, at its core, is about creating a structure that supports who you are, not about fitting into a rigid system that doesn't resonate with you. The Stoics, for example, didn't believe in forcing everyone to live the same way. Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca all practiced discipline, but each had a personal approach that suited their own life circumstances and temperaments. Marcus Aurelius, an emperor with immense responsibilities, found discipline in structure and routine. Epictetus, born a slave, found discipline in accepting the constraints of his life, focusing on mastering his inner world. The beauty of Stoicism lies in its adaptability. It wasn't about following a prescribed routine, but about living in alignment with one's own nature and circumstances. Understanding your nature. The first step to building discipline that fits your nature is understanding yourself. This means taking a deep look at your habits, preferences, and how you naturally operate. Are you more energized in the morning or at night? Do you thrive in quiet solitude, or do you need social interaction to stay motivated? What tasks drain your energy, and which ones give you a sense of fulfillment? By asking these questions, you begin to identify your natural rhythms. For example, if you find that your most productive hours are in the evening, it would be unwise to force yourself into a morning person schedule simply because you've read it's the most productive time. Instead, structure your discipline around your peak performance times. Honor your body's natural energy flow. Equally important is recognizing the types of tasks or environments that suit your personality. Some people need rigid schedules, while others are more productive with flexibility. Some thrive on routine, while others need creativity and variety. This doesn't mean you should abandon structure altogether, but rather that you should allow your discipline to adapt to your personality. If you're a creative type, for instance, instead of forcing yourself into a strict to-do list, create a flexible plan that allows for bursts of deep focus and creative exploration. If you're more task-oriented, then a structured list might work better. Experimenting with discipline. Finding the right kind of discipline takes trial and error. It requires a willingness to experiment with different systems and routines until you find what works for you. You don't have to commit to something rigid from the start. Instead, allow yourself the freedom to adjust as you learn more about your needs and your productivity. If you try waking up at 5 a.m. to work out every day but find that you feel sluggish and resentful, perhaps it's time to reframe your approach. Maybe working out in the evening or breaking your exercise into shorter, more frequent sessions aligns better with your energy levels. Alternatively, if a lack of structure leaves you feeling unproductive, then creating a morning routine or setting daily goals might be exactly what you need to feel grounded and focused. This process of experimentation is a vital part of building sustainable discipline. It's not about adhering to someone else's ideal or living up to external standards. It's about finding a system that nurtures your growth and works in harmony with your true self. Discipline, when tailored to fit your nature, stops feeling like a burden. It becomes something that supports you and aligns with your purpose. Discipline as flexibility. Building discipline that fits your nature doesn't mean being rigid or inflexible. It's important to recognize that life can be unpredictable, and your discipline needs to be adaptable to the inevitable changes and challenges that arise. Flexibility within your discipline allows you to adjust when circumstances shift without losing sight of your long-term goals. For instance, if you have a goal to write every day but get stuck in a busy work week or family commitments, rather than abandoning the goal, you can adjust. Maybe you write for 10 minutes instead of an hour, or you might schedule writing sessions during weekends or quiet moments in the evening. The point is not perfection but progress, adapting discipline to fit what's possible in the context of your life. Discipline is most powerful when it aligns with your unique nature. Understanding your rhythms, strengths, and tendencies allows you to craft a structure that supports your goals and values. Discipline doesn't have to be one size fits all, and it shouldn't feel like a forced obligation. When you build a system that works for you, it becomes easier to maintain, more sustainable, and more rewarding. By embracing discipline as a personal practice that fits your nature, you move toward a life of intentionality and alignment, and ultimately, growth. The cost of disorder. Disorder, whether in your environment, your mind, or your life, is not always immediately visible. It doesn't come with a loud, dramatic crash. Instead, it shows up in subtle, often unnoticed ways. An unread message here, a skipped workout there, a task left unfinished. These small, seemingly inconsequential acts of disorder accumulate over time, and while they may not seem like a big deal in the moment, their cumulative impact is significant. Without order, your life slowly begins to unravel, and the cost is paid in quiet, invisible ways. The erosion of focus and clarity. One of the first costs of disorder is the erosion of mental clarity. When your mind is cluttered with unfinished tasks, scattered thoughts, or unresolved issues, it becomes increasingly difficult to focus on what truly matters. The constant mental noise drains your energy, leaving you feeling scattered, unfocused, and unable to concentrate. This lack of mental clarity not only affects your ability to work effectively, but also undermines your sense of purpose and direction. The Stoics understood the importance of mental clarity and order. They knew that without a clear mind, you are at the mercy of your impulses and distractions. Marcus Aurelius, for example, made it a practice to regularly examine his thoughts and actions to ensure that his mind remained focused on what truly mattered. Without that inner order, he knew that chaos would creep in and cloud his judgment. In our own lives, when our minds are overwhelmed by disorder, whether from constant notifications, unorganized to-do lists, or lingering worries, we lose our ability to think critically, make decisions, and act with intention. The result is a constant state of mental fatigue and a sense of being stuck in a never-ending loop of busyness without ever moving closer to our goals. The drain on energy and motivation. Disorder doesn't just affect your mind, it also drains your physical and emotional energy. When your environment is chaotic, when your schedule is unstructured, when your time is fragmented, it's hard to feel motivated to take meaningful action. You may find yourself constantly reacting to life, putting out fires, and responding to whatever is loudest or most urgent, rather than proactively working toward what matters most. This constant state of reaction leaves you feeling exhausted, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally. Over time, this exhaustion turns into burnout, as you feel like you're always giving but never replenishing your energy. Without discipline and order, this cycle continues, and you become trapped in a state of survival rather than growth. The Stoics believed that maintaining inner order was key to preserving energy and focus. They understood that when we live reactively, when we let external chaos dictate our actions, we deplete ourselves. Discipline, living with intention and purpose, allows us to conserve our energy, avoid unnecessary distractions, and focus on the tasks that align with our values and long-term goals. The loss of presence and connection. Disorder also affects our ability to be present in the moment. When your life is chaotic, when your mind is cluttered with worries or distractions, you become disconnected from the here and now. Whether it's in your relationships, your work, or your personal pursuits, disorder pulls you away from the present moment, leaving you physically there but mentally absent. The true cost of this is the erosion of meaningful connection. You may find yourself distracted during conversations, thinking about your never-ending to-do list or the clutter in your home. You might be physically at a family gathering but mentally checking your phone or worrying about work. When disorder reigns, it creates a barrier between you and the people or activities that matter most. The Stoics practiced mindfulness, not just in their thoughts but in their relationships and daily actions. They understood that presence is the foundation of true connection. By living in alignment with their values, they were able to be present, focused, and engaged with what was right in front of them, whether it was a conversation with a friend or a task that required their full attention. The hidden toll on your potential. Perhaps the greatest cost of disorder is the quiet erosion of your potential. When your life lacks structure, when you are constantly pulled in different directions, you lose the ability to move forward with purpose. Disorder prevents you from focusing on what matters, and over time, it diminishes your ability to take meaningful action. You begin to waste time, procrastinate, and fall into patterns of avoidance, convincing yourself that there's always tomorrow. The accumulation of small acts of disorder leads to missed opportunities, unfulfilled potential, and quiet regret. You may tell yourself that you'll get to it tomorrow, but as the days, weeks, and months pass, you realize that your future has slowly been given away to the chaos of the present. This is the hidden toll of disorder. It prevents you from realizing who you could truly be. The Stoics understood that time is our most precious resource, and disorder, whether mental or physical, wastes it. They practiced discipline because they knew that without order, their lives would be shaped by external forces rather than by their own values and intentions. By creating structure and order in their lives, they reclaimed their time, energy, and focus, and with that, they unlock their true potential. The cost of disorder is not always immediately visible, but over time, it takes its toll in subtle and profound ways. It erodes your focus, drains your energy, prevents you from being present, and quietly stifles your potential. The cumulative impact of disorder is far greater than the sum of its small parts. That's why it's so important to cultivate inner and outer order through discipline. By creating structure in your life, you reclaim your energy, your focus, and your time. You give yourself the opportunity to become the person you were always meant to be, rather than letting the chaos of life dictate who you become. Success and complacency. Success, while often celebrated, can also be a double-edged sword. Chati. First, achieving success feels exhilarating. It feels like the culmination of hard work, discipline, and sacrifice. The rewards are tangible: recognition, validation, progress. Yet, ironically, success can be one of the most dangerous traps you can fall into. It has the power to lull you into complacency, to make you feel like you've arrived and that the work is done. This is where the true danger lies. Success, without a continual commitment to discipline, can soften you. It can create a sense of entitlement, a feeling that you've earned the right to relax and stop pushing yourself. This mindset is seductive because it offers temporary relief from the constant grind. But comfort and complacency come at a cost. The cost of stagnation, of forgetting the habits and principles that led you to success in the first place. The Stoics understood this danger. They knew that external success, whether it's wealth, power, or recognition, was not the ultimate goal. Instead, the goal was inner strength, wisdom, and virtue. The Stoic mindset isn't about relaxing after a victory. It's about maintaining discipline and growth, even after reaching the pinnacle. Marcus Aurelius, despite being the emperor of Rome, didn't allow success to lull him into comfort. He wrote daily reminders to himself to avoid laziness, to stay humble, and to continue living according to his values. The Stoics didn't view success as a destination but as a checkpoint, something to be appreciated and then surpassed with greater intention. The subtle slide into complacency. Complacency often starts slowly. It's not something that happens overnight. The first signs are subtle: skipping a workout, taking a day off when you didn't plan to, cutting corners in your work, or telling yourself that you've earned a break. These small decisions don't seem significant in the moment, but they are the seeds of complacency. Each time you choose comfort over discipline, you weaken your commitment to your values and your goals. What happens over time is that these small acts of indulgence start to accumulate. You begin to rationalize each choice, telling yourself that it's okay to relax, or that you deserve to take it easy. But the problem is that with every concession, your discipline erodes. You stop challenging yourself. You start coasting on past efforts instead of pushing yourself to grow. Slowly, you lose sight of the habits that brought you success in the first place, and before you know it, the results you've worked so hard for begin to slip away. The Stoic approach to success is to never become complacent. Stoic discipline is not a means to an end, but a lifelong commitment to self-improvement. The Stoics practiced what is known as ataraxia, a state of tranquility that comes not from external success, but from internal stability and discipline. Success, according to Stoic philosophy, is about remaining true to your principles regardless of external circumstances. It's about maintaining your focus and commitment, especially when you've reached a level of comfort or achievement. The true test of discipline is how you behave when things are going well, not just when you're struggling. Continuing to push after success. After success, the challenge becomes not resting on your laurels but continuing to push forward with the same intensity, clarity, and hunger that got you there. The Stoic mindset teaches that your journey is never complete. Even after reaching a significant achievement, there is always room for growth, learning, and self-refinement. Success doesn't make you immune to failure or complacency. It merely provides you with more opportunities to demonstrate the discipline that got you there. If you allow yourself to become complacent after achieving success, you risk losing the edge that made you successful in the first place. The hunger, The grit and the fire that fueled your ambition can fade if you don't keep sharpening your discipline. The Stoics believed in the importance of preparing for adversity even during times of prosperity. The true measure of success isn't just the destination, it's the continued dedication to the principles and habits that sustain it. Success, when approached with discipline and humility, can serve as a stepping stone to even greater growth. But when success leads to complacency, it becomes a trap, dulling your edge and leading you away from your true potential. The challenge is to continue showing up with the same energy, focus, and commitment even after you've achieved what you set out to accomplish. Discipline is not just about reaching a goal, it's about maintaining the drive, the clarity, and the commitment to self-improvement, no matter where you are in your journey. Complacency may feel comfortable, but it comes at the expense of your growth. True success is found in the refusal to relax your standards and the willingness to continue pushing forward, no matter how far you've come. Moving without motivation. Motivation is often viewed as the key to success, the spark that drives us to take action and the fuel that keeps us moving toward our goals. It's easy to believe that motivation is necessary to get started, that without it, we simply can't do the work. The problem with this belief is that motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes, often when we least expect it. Some days, you may feel energized and driven to tackle your to-do list. Other days, the thought of getting started may feel overwhelming, and motivation seems completely absent. The truth is, waiting for motivation to arrive before you take action is one of the most effective ways to stay stuck. The real secret to discipline isn't about waiting for motivation to strike. It's about moving without it. Discipline is about doing the work, not because you feel like it, but because you've decided it matters. It's about acting with intention, even when your mind is telling you to procrastinate, avoid, or wait for the right moment. The fallacy of motivation. The idea that motivation is necessary to act is a misconception that can hold you back. Motivation is not a prerequisite for success. It's a byproduct of action. This is a fundamental shift in mindset. You don't wait to feel motivated to do something. You do the thing, and in doing so, motivation follows. The moment you begin to take action, even if it's just for a few minutes, momentum builds, and motivation naturally follows suit. The Stoics understood this concept well. They didn't wait for motivation or inspiration to begin their work. They didn't rely on how they felt in the moment. Instead, they focused on their principles and took action based on what was right, not what felt easy or comfortable. Epictetus, one of the most influential Stoic philosophers, taught that true freedom comes not from waiting for the perfect conditions, but from doing what is necessary, regardless of how we feel. In practice, this might look like getting up to work out even though you're tired, starting your writing even though you don't feel inspired, or tackling a difficult conversation when you'd rather avoid it. The key is to make the decision to act, even in the absence of motivation. The action itself generates the momentum that fuels your motivation. The power of small, consistent actions. One of the most effective ways to move without motivation is to start small. When the task ahead feels daunting, it's easy to feel paralyzed by its size or complexity. But breaking it down into smaller, more manageable steps allows you to take action without feeling overwhelmed. For example, instead of committing to writing an entire chapter, just commit to writing one page. If the thought of working out for an hour seems impossible, commit to just 10 minutes. The point is to show up, to make the first move, and to begin the process. These small, consistent actions are what build discipline over time. You don't need to feel motivated to make progress. You just need to begin. Each time you take that first step, you are reinforcing the habit, strengthening your commitment, and building the muscle of discipline. The Stoics believed that virtue is built in small, everyday actions, not grand gestures or isolated moments of inspiration. By showing up consistently, regardless of how you feel, you build the character and resilience necessary to reach your long-term goals. The role of decision and intention. Moving without motivation requires a clear decision and strong intention. It's about committing to your goals and values, not based on fleeting emotions, but on a deeper understanding of what truly matters to you. The Stoics didn't let their actions be dictated by their moods or external circumstances. They acted with intention, guided by their principles. For example, if your goal is to improve your health, you don't wait for the moment when you feel motivated to work out. Instead, you make the decision to prioritize your health and align your actions accordingly. You move without motivation because you understand the value of the long-term results, and your commitment is stronger than the temporary resistance of your emotions. Practical tips for moving without motivation. Set clear, small goals. Instead of overwhelming yourself with a large, vague goal, break it down into smaller, actionable steps that you can start right away. The more specific and manageable the task, the easier it is to take action. Create a routine. Establishing a consistent routine eliminates the need for motivation. When you've built habits around your goals, you don't need to rely on motivation to do the work. It becomes part of your daily rhythm. Make it non-negotiable. Treat the actions you need to take as non-negotiable commitments. Just as you wouldn't skip an important meeting or cancel a deadline, don't cancel on your personal goals. This mindset takes the decision to act out of the realm of emotion and places it squarely in the realm of discipline. Start with 5 minutes. When resistance is high, commit to just 5 minutes of the task. Often, once you start, it's easier to continue. The hardest part is getting started. Celebrate small wins. Acknowledge your progress, no matter how small. Every action you take, even if it's just a few minutes of work, reinforces your discipline and motivation. Waiting for motivation to arrive before you take action is a surefire way to stay stuck. Motivation is not a prerequisite for success, it's a byproduct of action. The key to building discipline is to move without motivation, to take consistent small steps, and to commit to your goals regardless of how you feel in the moment. The Stoic practice of acting with intention, guided by your principles and values, is the foundation of true discipline. By learning to take action without waiting for motivation, you unlock the power to create lasting change and move closer to the person you are meant to be. Conscious choice versus auto-reaction. In today's fast-paced, information-overloaded world, it's easy to live on autopilot. We wake up, check our phones, respond to emails, attend meetings, scroll through social media, and fall into the same familiar patterns without ever truly questioning why we're doing what we're doing. We often react to the world around us without conscious thought, letting our habits, impulses, and external pressures dictate our actions. This way of living, though convenient, is a form of passive existence, a constant reaction to the noise of the world, rather than an intentional choice to live according to our values. Discipline, however, requires a different approach. It's about making conscious choices, not reacting to life by default. It's about pausing, reflecting, and choosing your response to each situation, rather than simply following the familiar, automatic patterns that have been ingrained in you over time. The real power of discipline lies in your ability to be intentional with your actions, to break free from the habitual responses that may not align with your true goals, and to act from a place of clarity and purpose. The danger of living on autopilot. Living on autopilot is not inherently bad. Many of our routines and habits are necessary for efficiency and productivity. However, the danger lies in letting these habits go unexamined. When you react without awareness, you often miss the opportunity to choose actions that align with your deeper values. You might respond to stress by reaching for comfort foods, procrastinate on important tasks because of fear, or follow the crowd simply to avoid conflict. These automatic reactions are shaped by past experiences, conditioning, and external pressures, rather than by conscious choices that reflect who you truly want to be. The problem with living on autopilot is that you surrender control. You let your emotions, circumstances, and the expectations of others govern your life. When you constantly react rather than choose, you allow your external environment to dictate your direction. Over time, this can lead to feelings of frustration, dissatisfaction, and a lack of fulfillment because you are not living authentically or in alignment with your true desires and values. The power of conscious choice. Discipline, at its core, is about cultivating the ability to make conscious choices. It's about slowing down, reflecting on your actions, and deciding how you want to respond. When you practice conscious choice, you stop letting your impulses drive you. Instead, you take a moment to consider your values, your goals, and the long-term consequences of your actions before deciding how to proceed. For example, when faced with a stressful situation, rather than automatically reacting with anxiety or frustration, you take a breath and choose to respond calmly and thoughtfully. When tempted by distractions, instead of mindlessly scrolling through your phone, you pause and choose to focus on the task at hand. When you make a mistake or experience failure, you don't immediately fall into self-criticism or blame. You consciously choose to reflect on the lesson and move forward. This practice of conscious choice requires self-awareness. It means recognizing when you're falling into old patterns and making the decision to step out of them. It's about interrupting the automatic reactions that don't serve you and replacing them with actions that align with who you want to be. By doing so, you take back control of your life and you begin to live intentionally rather than passively. Breaking free from default reactions. To break free from auto-reaction, the first step is awareness. You must become attuned to the automatic patterns that dominate your life. This requires paying attention to your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, especially in moments of stress, challenge, or temptation. Notice when you're slipping into old habits, whether it's avoiding a difficult task, seeking immediate gratification, or reacting out of anger or fear, and ask yourself, is this the response I want to have? The next step is to replace these automatic reactions with intentional actions. This requires practice and patience. It's about making small, conscious decisions every day to act in alignment with your values, even when it's difficult or uncomfortable. Each time you choose consciously, you reinforce the habit of discipline and create new pathways for growth. Over time, this practice becomes second nature, and you begin to respond to life from a place of clarity, not reactivity. Living with intention. Living with intention means making deliberate choices that reflect your true priorities and values. It's about deciding who you want to be and acting in ways that bring you closer to that version of yourself. This requires discipline, but it also requires courage. The courage to step outside of your comfort zone, the courage to say no when necessary, and the courage to face your fears and insecurities head-on. When you live intentionally, you stop reacting to life's challenges with default responses. Instead, you choose your path. You create a life that is guided by your deepest values, not by fleeting emotions or external pressures. In doing so, you gain a sense of agency, control, and purpose. You stop living passively and start living with the clarity and focus that comes from acting with intention. The true power of discipline lies in your ability to make conscious choices rather than automatically reacting to life. By becoming more aware of your habits and responses, and by intentionally choosing your actions based on your values, you regain control over your life. No longer a slave to your impulses or external circumstances, you become the architect of your own journey. Living with conscious choice doesn't mean perfection. It means living authentically, with purpose and clarity, and aligning your actions with the person you are becoming. Team. Private discipline and public integrity. Discipline is often thought of as something that is done for the world to see, a morning routine shared on social media, a public display of productivity, or the performance of good habits in front of others. But true discipline isn't about performing for an audience. It is about what you do when no one is watching, the choices you make when the applause fades, and the integrity you maintain in private. The most powerful form of discipline is the one that is practiced in silence, where there is no external validation or recognition. This is where true character is built, when the only person who knows if you followed through is yourself. The importance of private discipline. Private discipline is the foundation of public integrity. It is in the quiet moments when there are no eyes on you that you demonstrate your commitment to your values, your principles, and your own growth. It's easy to follow through on your commitments when there's a reward or someone watching. But true discipline is about showing up, not for the validation, but for your own sense of integrity. It's about doing the right thing because you know it's right, regardless of external circumstances. This private discipline is often invisible to others, yet its impact is profound. It's about maintaining your commitment when no one is holding you accountable. For example, sticking to your word, finishing a task you started, or resisting the urge to take shortcuts or engage in distractions. These actions are the true measure of your character. It is in these moments that your internal strength is forged and your integrity becomes solidified. Discipline in private is not about perfection. It is about consistency, the daily commitment to yourself that reinforces your values and builds the person you are becoming. Public integrity, the visible outcome of private discipline. Public integrity is the outward reflection of the discipline you've cultivated in private. When you live with integrity, when your private actions align with your values, this becomes visible to the world. Integrity isn't about putting on a facade or pretending to be something you're not. It's about consistency, what you do in private matches, what you show to the world. When you maintain discipline in your private life, you build a foundation of trust with others. They can see that you walk your talk. You don't need to boast or seek validation because your actions speak for themselves. People trust those who maintain integrity, especially when their actions remain aligned with their values, even in challenging situations. Public integrity isn't about pretending to be perfect or constantly seeking approval. It's about authenticity and honesty, living in such a way that your actions reflect who you truly are, rather than who you want others to believe you are. The relationship between private discipline and public integrity. The relationship between private discipline and public integrity is symbiotic. Without private discipline, public integrity becomes shallow, based on external validation rather than internal conviction. On the other hand, when private discipline is the foundation of your actions, public integrity is effortless. You don't have to perform for others or seek external recognition. You simply live in alignment with your values, and others will take note. This type of integrity is what earns you respect, not because you've tried to win it, but because you've shown, through consistent action, that you can be trusted. This concept is especially important in a world that often prioritizes appearances over substance. Many people are quick to show off their successes or routines on social media, portraying a life of discipline and achievement. But true discipline is not a performance. It is built in the quiet hours, in the moments where there is no audience, no likes, no validation. It's easy to show discipline when there's an external reward. It's harder to maintain that discipline when no one is watching and there's no immediate gratification. But it's in these moments of solitude and private effort that your true integrity is forged. The Stoic view on integrity. The Stoics placed great emphasis on integrity because they understood that true virtue is an internal pursuit. For Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus, integrity was not about external appearances, but about internal consistency. Their discipline was not for show. It was to align their lives with their higher principles. They weren't concerned with how others perceived them. They were more focused on living virtuously, based on their own understanding of what was right. This form of integrity is the kind that endures, not because it's being constantly broadcasted, but because it is lived every day in the small, private moments that build a foundation of trust and respect. Private discipline and public integrity go hand in hand. Discipline practiced in private, when no one is looking, forms the bedrock of the integrity you show to the world. The choices you make in solitude, how you treat yourself, how you honor your commitments, and how you act when no one is watching, determine the strength and authenticity of your public integrity. True discipline is not about seeking approval or recognition. It's about maintaining your values and actions consistently, no matter the circumstances, and allowing that consistency to speak for itself. When you live with this kind of integrity, your actions become your reputation, and your integrity becomes a silent but powerful influence on those around you. Taming the dopamine response. In today's world, we are constantly bombarded with distractions designed to capture our attention and trigger our dopamine response. Dopamine, a neurotransmitter in the brain, is often associated with pleasure and reward. It's the chemical that reinforces behaviors by making us feel good when we receive a reward, whether it's through a like on social media, a hit of sugar, or the excitement of a new purchase. While dopamine is essential for motivation and learning, the modern world has engineered a constant stream of dopamine triggers, quick rewards that feel satisfying in the moment, but ultimately lead to dissatisfaction and lack of fulfillment over time. The problem lies in how easy it has become to seek out and indulge in these quick dopamine hits. Our devices, social media platforms, and even our eating habits are designed to keep us hooked, stimulating the brain's reward system again and again. The issue is not with dopamine itself, it's with how we've allowed these shallow rewards to hijack our brain's natural mechanisms, leading to a constant craving for instant gratification. This pattern of behavior can lead to addictive cycles, lack of focus, and a diminished sense of fulfillment, especially when it comes to long-term goals that require sustained effort. The impact of constant dopamine hits. Constant exposure to dopamine triggers makes it difficult to concentrate and stay motivated for activities that don't provide immediate rewards. For instance, you might find it easier to scroll through your phone for hours than to sit down and work on a long-term project like writing a book or learning a new skill. The immediate gratification of social media, gaming, or checking emails is a dopamine-driven response that provides an instant sense of satisfaction but leaves little lasting value. Over time, the brain becomes accustomed to these quick rewards and starts craving more frequent stimulation, which makes it harder to focus on tasks that require sustained effort and discipline. This constant cycle of seeking dopamine-driven rewards not only disrupts our ability to concentrate on important long-term goals, but also interferes with our sense of achievement. When we focus on short-term, easily achievable rewards, we neglect the deeper satisfaction that comes from accomplishing something that requires effort, patience, and discipline. The temporary pleasure of instant gratification, while enjoyable in the moment, ultimately leads to emptiness because it lacks the deeper, more meaningful sense of accomplishment. Rewiring the brain. To break free from this cycle, we need to intentionally rewire our brain's response to dopamine. This doesn't mean eliminating pleasure or enjoyment from our lives, but rather shifting our focus to more meaningful rewards that align with our long-term goals. Instead of seeking pleasure through short bursts of gratification, we need to train ourselves to find satisfaction in completing tasks that take time and effort, such as focusing on deep work, exercising regularly, or committing to learning something new. The Stoics understood the importance of self-control and delayed gratification. They didn't chase after immediate pleasure or external rewards. Instead, they cultivated the ability to endure discomfort for the sake of greater long-term fulfillment. By practicing this, they built resilience, discipline, and inner strength. For instance, Marcus Aurelius did not seek external approval or validation. He found satisfaction in doing the right thing because it aligned with his values, not because it provided instant pleasure or gratification. Practical steps to tame dopamine. Create reward systems for long-term goals. Instead of relying on external sources of dopamine, create a system where you reward yourself after achieving meaningful goals. For example, after completing a challenging task or working on a long-term project, treat yourself to something enjoyable but not addictive, such as a walk in nature, a favorite book, or a movie night. This helps your brain associate effort with real, fulfilling rewards. Limit instant gratification. Cut back on activities that provide immediate dopamine hits, such as mindless scrolling on social media or constantly checking your phone. Set boundaries around these activities and create designated times for them. Instead, replace these habits with activities that require focus, like reading a book, writing, or exercising. Over time, your brain will begin to associate these activities with deeper, longer-lasting satisfaction. Practice mindfulness. Mindfulness practices, such as meditation or journaling, help you develop awareness of your impulses and your brain's natural cravings for dopamine-driven rewards. By becoming more aware of these impulses, you can make intentional choices about where to direct your energy and attention. Delay gratification. Start small by practicing delayed gratification. For example, if you feel the urge to check your phone, resist the impulse for just a few more minutes and focus on a task at hand. Gradually increase the amount of time you can delay the gratification, which helps retrain your brain to value longer-term satisfaction over immediate pleasure. Embrace discomfort. Just as the Stoics practiced enduring discomfort for the sake of personal growth, you can learn to embrace discomfort in your daily life. The more you lean into the discomfort of working toward something important without expecting immediate rewards, the stronger your discipline will become. This practice not only tames your dopamine response but also builds your mental and emotional resilience. Taming the dopamine response is about shifting away from the addiction to instant gratification and redirecting your focus toward more meaningful, long-term rewards. By practicing delayed gratification, becoming more mindful of your impulses, and finding satisfaction in sustained effort, you can break the cycle of shallow dopamine hits and create a life that is deeply fulfilling. The Stoic practice of enduring discomfort for the sake of long-term growth is a powerful antidote to the addictive cycle of constant stimulation. In doing so, you not only reclaim control over your focus and energy, but also cultivate a deeper sense of purpose and satisfaction in your life. To structure as mercy. In a world that often values spontaneity and freedom, the concept of structure can seem restrictive, even stifling. We often think of structure as a rigid, inflexible set of rules that constrain our creativity and limit our freedom. However, the Stoics, and those who truly understand the value of discipline, see structure as a form of mercy, not a cage. Structure, when thoughtfully applied, is not about controlling every aspect of your life. It's about creating a framework that allows you to thrive, protects your energy, and ensures that you're spending your time on what truly matters. The paradox of structure. At first glance, structure might seem like the opposite of freedom. The idea of planning every aspect of your day, sticking to a rigid schedule, or following strict routines may feel like the antithesis of a free, fulfilling life. But the truth is, structure is actually the key to freedom. Freedom from distractions, from wasted time, and from the chaos of living without intention. When you live without structure, your time and energy are constantly pulled in different directions. Distractions, whether they're notifications, endless to-do lists, or simply the demands of modern life, take over. You react to the world around you, rather than acting with purpose. The result is often stress, burnout, and a deep sense of dissatisfaction. Without structure, you spend your days responding to life's demands rather than shaping them. On the other hand, when you create structure in your life, you gain clarity and focus. You establish boundaries that protect your time and energy, giving you the space to invest in what truly matters. Instead of being constantly pulled in multiple directions, you can focus on your priorities and create the life you want to live. In this sense, structure becomes an act of mercy. It provides the stability and order you need to live with purpose and direction. Structure protects your time and energy. One of the most profound ways that structure serves as mercy is in how it protects your time and energy. Time is the most precious resource we have, yet it is so easily wasted when we don't have clear intentions or boundaries. Without structure, we waste hours scrolling through our phones, responding to emails, or reacting to every demand that comes our way. A well-structured day, on the other hand, helps you make the most of your time. By having set periods for deep work, exercise, relaxation, and reflection, you ensure that you're allocating your time toward the things that will help you grow rather than frittering it away on distractions. This not only helps you be more productive, but it also gives you a sense of peace and accomplishment, knowing that you are using your time in alignment with your values. The Stoics were keenly aware of the importance of time. Marcus Aurelius, despite being the emperor of Rome, maintained a strict daily routine to ensure that he could focus on his duties without being overwhelmed. He didn't waste time on trivial distractions. Instead, he reserved his energy for what was most important. By embracing structure, he created space for personal reflection, focused work, and the pursuit of virtue. Structure fosters mental clarity. Another key benefit of structure is the mental clarity it provides. When you have a clear plan for your day, week, or month, you reduce mental clutter and anxiety. The Stoics believed that to live a virtuous life, one needed to be in control of their thoughts, emotions, and actions. Mental chaos, being overwhelmed by too many tasks or uncertain about what comes next, can cloud your judgment and distract you from your higher goals. A structured approach to life allows you to clear away the mental noise, creating the space to think, reflect, and act with intention. When you know exactly what needs to be done and when, you are able to focus more effectively and make better decisions. This sense of clarity is a form of mercy to yourself because it relieves the stress of constantly feeling like you're behind or out of control. The role of structure in creative pursuits. Some may argue that structure stifles creativity. However, the truth is the opposite. Structure can actually help creativity flourish. Having designated times for creative work or reflection allows you to be more present and focused during those periods, which can lead to better ideas and more meaningful results. The constraints of structure can give your creativity direction and purpose, rather than leaving you feeling scattered or overwhelmed by too many choices. The Stoics themselves were highly disciplined individuals, yet they also understood the importance of thoughtful reflection and self-expression. By structuring their lives around their principles, they freed themselves from the distractions that might have otherwise pulled them away from their deeper work. This balance between structure and freedom allowed them to pursue their personal development with focus, clarity, and intention. Structure is not the enemy of freedom, it is its ally. By creating structure in your life, you protect your time, preserve your energy, and create the space needed for deep work, reflection, and growth. Structure serves as mercy. It provides you with the stability to make the most of your time, the mental clarity to act with purpose, and the freedom to focus on what truly matters. When you live with intention, you move from a place of reaction to one of proactive creation. In embracing structure, you give yourself the tools to live a life of meaning, alignment, and true freedom. Acting like the person you want to become. One of the most profound truths about discipline is that your actions shape your identity. Every choice you make, every decision you act on, is a step toward becoming the person you want to be. In other words, discipline is not just about doing specific tasks, it's about rehearsing the identity you're working to embody. The person you are today is the sum of your past actions, but the person you will become is determined by the actions you choose today. This concept is powerful because it gives you a way to shape your future self, not by waiting for some moment of readiness, but by consistently acting as if you're already the person you aspire to be. Instead of waiting for motivation, inspiration, or for the right time, you begin to take action in alignment with your ideal self. It's not about perfection, it's about creating small, consistent moments of alignment with your higher vision, which over time build your future identity. The power of identity-based discipline. When we set goals, we often think in terms of results. I want to be fit, I want to write a book, or I want to be more productive. But while results are important, the true secret to success lies in identity-based discipline. Identity-based goals focus on becoming the type of person who naturally accomplishes what you want to achieve, rather than merely setting goals that you hope to reach. For example, if your goal is to become a writer, acting like a writer doesn't mean waiting for the perfect time to start writing. It means writing regularly, even if it's just for 10 minutes a day. It means embracing the identity of a writer and committing to the practice, not waiting for inspiration to strike. By acting like a writer, you become one, regardless of the quality of the work you produce in the beginning. Similarly, if you want to become a healthier person, stop thinking of yourself as someone who occasionally exercises or tries to eat well. Instead, embody the identity of someone who prioritizes health. A person who is healthy wakes up and moves their body, chooses nutritious foods, and makes self-care a part of their daily life. It's not about waiting to feel like you have the energy or motivation. It's about deciding to act in a way that aligns with your vision of health and doing it consistently. The small, consistent actions that define you. The key to becoming the person you want to be is acting consistently in small ways that reflect your desired identity. If you want to be disciplined, you don't need to wake up every day at 5 a.m. or follow an overly rigid routine. What matters is consistency in the smaller actions that represent discipline, like prioritizing your goals, sticking to a plan, or resisting distractions when they arise. These small, consistent actions add up over time and create a self-image that aligns with your true aspirations. The Stoics practiced this principle by aligning their actions with their core values. They didn't wait for the right moment to live according to their principles, they made it a daily practice. Marcus Aurelius didn't need motivation to act virtuously. He acted in alignment with his values every day as a means of refining his character. The Stoic practice of self-examination, of reflecting on one's actions each day, was an ongoing effort to live according to the ideal version of themselves they sought to become. Living with purpose and integrity. When you begin acting like the person you want to become, you stop waiting for external validation. You don't rely on others to motivate you. Your actions stem from an internal compass that is driven by your core values. This way of living requires purpose and integrity. It means making decisions that align with your long-term goals, not your short-term desires. Acting in alignment with your identity means not negotiating with yourself when it comes to your commitments. For example, if you are someone who values health, you don't let excuses like "I'm too tired" get in the way of your workout. You choose to prioritize your health because that is who you are becoming. You don't wait for the motivation to show up. You embody the behaviors and choices that reflect the person you want to be. This level of discipline is what builds confidence in yourself. When you consistently show up for your commitments, even when it's difficult, you begin to trust your ability to follow through. You stop second-guessing your capabilities and start realizing that your actions are aligned with who you know you're becoming. The power of discipline lies in the simple but profound act of embodying the person you want to become. Rather than waiting for motivation or inspiration to strike, act as if you already are the person you aspire to be. By consistently taking small, intentional actions that reflect your ideal self, you shape your identity over time. Discipline becomes less about forcing yourself into a routine and more about aligning your actions with your values and goals. Every action you take, no matter how small, is a vote for the person you want to become. So, instead of waiting for the right time, start acting today and let your consistent actions create the identity you seek. Time is a currency. Time is the one resource we can never get back. Unlike money or material possessions, which can be replaced, every minute that passes is a minute that is gone forever. This makes time our most valuable currency, and how we spend it shapes the life we lead. Yet, in the hustle of daily life, it's easy to lose sight of how precious time truly is. We can fall into the trap of thinking that we have an unlimited supply, that there's always tomorrow to make changes or pursue our goals. But the truth is, time is finite, and how we choose to spend it matters deeply, not just for our productivity, but for our well-being and the legacy we leave behind. The importance of time awareness. Most people don't give enough thought to how they use their time. The average person may spend hours mindlessly scrolling through social media, watching television, or engaging in distractions that don't contribute to their long-term goals. While there's nothing wrong with leisure or relaxation, when these habits consume too much of our time, they rob us of the opportunity to focus on what truly matters. When you start to view time as currency, you begin to see every moment as an investment. Are you spending it in ways that align with your values? Are your actions contributing to your growth, your relationships, or your sense of fulfillment? Or are you spending your time on things that drain you, that don't add value to your life? This awareness is the first step toward reclaiming your time and using it intentionally. The Stoics were keenly aware of the value of time. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, repeatedly reminds himself that life is short and that he must not waste time on things that don't matter. He urged himself to focus on what was important, to act with purpose, and to make each day count. He didn't take time for granted, and this mindset is a crucial component of Stoic discipline. Time as an investment. When you treat time as currency, you begin to make more intentional choices. Instead of frittering away hours on distractions, or things that don't align with your long-term goals, you start investing your time in activities that create value. This could mean spending time on personal development, working on projects that challenge you, nurturing relationships with loved ones, or taking care of your physical and mental health, just as you wouldn't waste money on frivolous purchases. If you are trying to build wealth, you shouldn't waste your time on things that don't contribute to your goals or well-being. Every hour spent on activities that don't move you closer to who you want to become is an hour that could have been spent more meaningfully. Over time, these small decisions accumulate, and your life will be shaped by the choices you made about how to spend your most valuable resource. For example, if you spend just an hour a day reading or learning a new skill, in a year, you'll have invested 365 hours into personal growth. This kind of long-term thinking, viewing time as an investment, is how true progress is made. It's not about the occasional burst of effort. It's about consistent small investments over time that compound into significant results. The cost of wasting time. On the flip side, wasting time has a high cost. Each hour spent aimlessly, each day of procrastination, is a lost opportunity to invest in something meaningful. Time wasted today may feel like a small loss, but over months and years it adds up. We often overestimate how much time we have left and underestimate how quickly it can slip away. The emotional and psychological toll of wasted time is also significant. When we don't use our time wisely, we often feel the weight of regret and dissatisfaction. This sense of wasted potential can undermine our motivation and sense of purpose. But the reverse is also true. When we use our time wisely, we feel a deep sense of fulfillment and satisfaction, knowing that we are moving in the direction of our values and goals. Reclaiming your time. Reclaiming your time begins with setting clear priorities and making conscious decisions about where to invest it. This means saying no to things that don't align with your goals and saying yes to those that do. It's about being deliberate with your time. Whether it's scheduling time for focused work, setting aside moments for reflection, or ensuring that you're making time for the people and activities that nourish you. One of the best ways to reclaim your time is to track how you spend it. Journaling your time or using time tracking apps can give you a clear picture of where your hours are going. You might be surprised to see how much time you spend on things that don't align with your values or goals. Once you have this awareness, you can begin to redirect your time toward activities that matter. Time is the most valuable resource we have. When you begin to treat it as currency, you make more intentional decisions about how you spend it. You invest your time in activities that align with your goals and values, and you stop wasting it on things that don't contribute to your growth or well-being. The Stoic mindset teaches us to never take time for granted, to use each moment wisely, and to recognize that time is limited. By doing so, we can live a life of purpose, fulfillment, and lasting impact. Every moment you spend consciously is an investment in your future. Time, when used wisely, becomes a tool for creating the life you truly desire. Measuring progress for growth. One of the most important elements of discipline and self-improvement is the ability to measure progress. Without measurement, we are merely guessing, wandering aimlessly through life, hoping that our efforts will eventually pay off. Discipline requires us to act with intention, but it also requires us to reflect on the outcomes of our actions. To truly grow, we must regularly assess whether we are on the right path, whether our habits and actions align with our goals, and whether we are moving closer to the person we want to become. This process of measuring progress isn't just about checking off boxes. It's about bringing clarity to our journey, understanding where we stand, and adjusting our course if necessary. The importance of self-examination. Self-reflection is a central practice in many philosophical traditions, and the Stoics emphasized it deeply. Marcus Aurelius, for example, used his personal journal to review his thoughts and actions each day. He would ask himself, what did I do well? Where did I fall short? How can I improve tomorrow? This practice of daily self-examination was essential to his growth because it allowed him to be honest about his progress and hold himself accountable. It wasn't enough to simply act. He needed to understand the impact of his actions and adjust accordingly. In the same way, regularly, measuring your progress helps you stay on track. Without self-examination, we may continue down a path that doesn't lead to our goals, or we may waste time and energy on actions that don't align with our true intentions. By reflecting on our actions and measuring progress, we ensure that our efforts are purposeful and aligned with our long-term vision. Tracking habits and goals. One of the most effective ways to measure progress is to track your habits and goals. Whether it's through a physical journal, a habit tracker app, or simply setting weekly and monthly goals, keeping track of your progress helps you stay accountable to yourself. Measuring small victories, such as successfully completing your workout or sticking to your reading goal for the week, provides a sense of accomplishment and momentum. Tracking also gives you a clear picture of what's working and what's not. If you're not hitting your goals, tracking will help you identify patterns that may be holding you back. Perhaps you're not sticking to your schedule, or maybe distractions are preventing you from staying focused. Measurement gives you the data you need to make informed decisions and course correct when necessary. It allows you to take a step back, assess where you are, and ask yourself whether your actions are truly leading you toward your desired outcome. Tracking progress in small steps. When measuring progress, it's crucial to focus on incremental growth. We often think of progress as something that happens in big dramatic leaps, but in reality, it is the small, consistent actions that compound over time. A person who reads just 10 pages a day will read over 3,600 pages in a year, enough for several books. Similarly, a person who works out for just 30 minutes each day will accumulate over 180 hours of exercise in a year. These small daily actions build up and lead to significant results. By measuring progress in small steps, you take the pressure off yourself to achieve perfection. Instead, you celebrate the consistency and effort that ultimately lead to growth. This approach is more sustainable because it focuses on the process rather than just the outcome. It teaches you to value effort, persistence, and incremental improvements, which ultimately lead to lasting success. The role of reflection and adjustment. It's not enough to simply track progress. You must also reflect on it and adjust as needed. If you're not meeting your goals, ask yourself why. Are your goals too ambitious? Are there external factors preventing you from staying on track? Are you being honest about the effort required to achieve them? Sometimes measuring progress will reveal areas where you need to adjust your strategy or your mindset. Reflection allows you to recalibrate. Maybe you need to break down your goals into smaller, more manageable steps, or perhaps you need to eliminate distractions or strengthen your commitment. Regularly checking in with yourself ensures that you stay aligned with your true values and goals, and it helps you avoid falling into the trap of mindlessly going through the motions without real progress. Tracking progress in more than just tasks. While tracking tasks, habits, and goals is important, true growth also requires measuring progress in more subtle ways. Are you becoming more patient, more mindful, or more compassionate? Are you improving your relationships, learning new skills, or becoming a better version of yourself each day? These intangible aspects of progress are just as important as measurable tasks. Reflecting on your personal development, whether it's emotional, mental, or spiritual, helps you stay aware of the broader impact of your discipline and growth. Measuring. Progress is essential to the discipline required for growth. Without it, we may continue acting without direction, unaware of whether our efforts are yielding results. Regular reflection and measurement give us the clarity we need to adjust our actions, stay on course, and achieve the long-term outcomes we desire. By tracking habits, reflecting on goals, and adjusting our approach when necessary, we ensure that we are always moving toward the person we want to become. Discipline without measurement is like building a house without a blueprint. It may look good at first, but it will lack the solid foundation necessary for long-term success. By consistently measuring progress, we build that foundation, creating a life of growth, purpose, and achievement. Discipline is the cornerstone of a life well lived, a life that is intentional, focused, and aligned with our deepest values. It is not about perfection or rigid routines. It is about showing up consistently, even when motivation is low, and making decisions that reflect the person we want to become. Whether it's in our private moments, when no one is watching, or in our public interactions, discipline serves as the quiet anchor that holds us steady in a world filled with distractions. At its core, discipline is not an external force we impose on ourselves, but a practice of self-respect, self-awareness, and self-mastery. It teaches us to use our time wisely, prioritize what truly matters, and act with integrity and purpose. Discipline is not about forcing ourselves into a mold set by others. It's about building a life that reflects who we are and who we want to become. By understanding discipline as a personal practice and measuring our progress with clarity, we create the structure and focus necessary for growth. We stop reacting to life and begin creating it. We shift from being passive participants to active creators of our destiny. Whether it's taming distractions, choosing intentional actions, or simply building habits that serve us, each small act of discipline compounds into something greater. Ultimately, discipline allows us to move beyond fleeting motivation and embrace the power of consistent effort. It helps us move toward the person we aspire to be, one choice at a time. As the Stoics taught, we are not defined by our circumstances, but by how we respond to them. With discipline, we reclaim control, build a life of purpose, and steadily become the best version of ourselves. The journey of discipline is ongoing, but with each step, we move closer to the life we're meant to live.